Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm back here at El Dorado Park Golf Course in my hometown of Long Beach, California with my friend Dana Dahlquist. Hey Dana.
Young man, how are you?
Good. We did this before and you guys may have seen those videos, but you've come to the right place. These are the videos to watch because we got both angles going and it's gonna really, I think, put a finer point on some of the stuff we're talking about, but don't worry about the old videos. We're getting straight into what I think is a huge game changer for a lot of people that want to level up their golf game and go from being somebody is kind of like a hit and hope to somebody who has a pretty darn good idea before they take it back of where the ball's going to go. That's kind of where strategy will start to open up and you'll actually start to play the game of golf rather than just like driving range game on the golf course. Dana, some of our viewers saw that stuff we did up in Northern California with Drew Cooper. And Drew talks that he wants to get the force before the motion, and almost exclusively what Drew was talking to me about was stuff that he was doing in his swing before the club even moves. And I see a lot of people making backswings, myself included, that looks like a lot of motion with no force. And then good players and little kids, you see this a lot with, they get some force moving first and then the club moves. So what does that mean to have force before motion to you?
Yeah, I think, so let's kind of go to the most primal part of this for a moment. Okay, so we're all human beings, and when you look at it from a normal movement of like learning how to walk, okay, you don't actually stand there and not move and then independently pick up your leg and then put it down and move. You actually kind of create an imbalance of pressure in your feet, which causes you to catch yourself.
I've done this before, so let's try it. Walking.
Yeah.
And you see this the most, like obviously I'll try to make a video of it. If you go to Disneyland and you see Isimo, the robot, he goes, and you really see it obviously, and when a robot is doing it, you're like, oh, that's what I do. You know, so
and we're obviously pretty complex machines, but I think from like a simple point of view, how do we create normal human movement and move it into moving an object, right? So whether it be a box or a weight or a golf club, you have to somehow, in order to move the mass of the club, you have to move your body. Now, you know, Hogan had a part in his book that unfortunately guys like myself who tend to be more on the mechanic side of things over the years, we kind of pulled that section out, which he talked about the waggle. Right? Had a whole chapter on that, and it was kind of a precursor to movement. And what he was actually saying is he would get in here and he'd move the club in order to kind of feel what he was doing on the ground. And what's interesting is that even in putting, so some of the best putters that have ever been around, I mean, Brad Faxon talks about this, Crenshaw talks about this, is that they get in and they're always kind of moving. And once that kind of happens, it allows them to create some sort of movement in the hands and goes up the chain. And I think when we turn that piece off, everything becomes more of a forced position. Or I see a lot of independent hand motion very, very early.
So when we turn the force off and just try to make motion sans force, then that's when this
where we get the
torquing
issues.
And stuff.
Right. So and those are adaptations, right? So we don't think of it like it's a problem. It's something you have to adapt to. Okay. So I don't look at anything in a golf swing as like, oh, that's a problem. Like a player is doing something that it's non-functional, then it's not functional, but it's not necessarily a problem. You have to adapt to fix that, right?
So if it's non-functional and there's no adaptation for it, then it is a problem.
There generally is. Okay. So whether that be they move better early, which tends to solve things up the chain. Okay, so if I get in here and I'm very independent in my hands and my action, I actually just shut my whole system down from being athletic in the first place, nor can I really use the right muscles to hit the golf ball. Okay. So one of the things we're looking for right off the bat is that we actually are using the ground, okay, and in the feet to move the system in order to get the club swinging. And we want that to be kind of the basis of how we move the golf club. Now, that might in and of itself take training, you know, throughout the day, whether you just walk around the house and pick up an object and go, okay, I'm going to move this object with pressure on the ground to get this thing swinging. And in Drew's case, he's trying to hit the ball really, really far. And we see this with Rory Mcilroy, who's obviously historically the best driver of the golf ball on tour, furthest and straightest.
Yeah, pound for pound, inch for inch longer than Drew.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how he does it.
Okay. When you say that's how he does it because he's using pressure before motion and force before motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about those two things, because I think this stuff that happens, I don't have my putter, but this will be fine. The stuff that happens before the club even moves is so interesting. So let's talk about those two players, Brad Faxon and Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
Because before you were talking about this, when I see a player like Fax go into putt, and I see him going like this, I was thinking it was an alignment thing. I was thinking, oh, he can't get his feet on line.
Could be part of it.
And then when I saw on the range, you see this a lot when Dustin Johnson's working on his swing, and I was cutting in some videos for our last thing, he's really got his feet moving a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah.
And then he goes this way, this way, this way again.
Yeah.
So you're saying that each one of these steps, for Fax with putter or for DJ with irons, that is like a tiny little mini golf swing. How so?
Well, I mean, it's getting this into motion.
Oh, okay.
That's number one. Okay, so that precursor is getting this to swing. So most of the pros would say, I mean, if you pick up like a golf magazine for an example, and there's a little excerpt over the years of guys talking about what are the things that you think about, and they say, well, I take it about, I worry about the first 5 inches of the golf swing or the first foot.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not thinking about what they're doing at the top. That's not being an athlete. Now, granted, if you have somebody who's a high handicapper, you might explain to them, hey, you need to get your body to do this, you need to get your face to do this. But at some point, you have to kind of break that mold and go, okay, well, let's get that to flow there. That's where there's a disconnect. And unfortunately, look, that's not sexy and that doesn't sell. That's the problem. So they're going to come up with some convoluted idea of, oh, we're going to make a specific, we're going to call the swing something.
Because you wouldn't really be able to draw lines on a video and show someone that their force didn't come before their motion.
It's pretty difficult.
On a 2D, you know?
Pretty difficult.
You would be able to see it because you've seen thousands and thousands of swings. I wouldn't be able to see it.
And are they doing it right?
Okay.
That's the other part.
How could you screw it up?
Well, you could screw it up by not understanding that your body's kind of segmented, right? So you have knees, femurs, hips, torso, core, shoulders, all these different segments. So if I go in here and I just move my pelvis to the right, okay, that's sending my whole body into a left bend real early. Right? And or on the other side, if I just tilt my upper body to the right, it's throwing me into a right bend. So what happens is now I lose perspective not only of maybe the swing direction, but also where I'm making contact. So what happens is the beginner golfer is worried about motion, tries to limit it to make contact. Now that might work for the time being, but as you progress as getting a better player, you need to understand that sequence. So
kind of the circle of destruction goes to people start golf and they, especially like if they're like teenagers or older and they start golf, they go really a lot this way and they go really a lot this way. And then they want to hit the ball, so they start limiting that motion, kind of this thing, but then they want to hit it further, so then they limit all the motion, but then they just make it move more. And then if they get to a pretty darn, like let's say like single digit or something, like level, but they won't really ever get any better just by getting a really well-tuned motion with no force behind it. And I've done that to players. So good and bad. So I'm pretty open, like I don't really care, I'll tell you my mistakes. So it's always the process of learning on my end. So, and I try to also tell people that I'm not always right. That's real important. It's a collaboration. We're both experimenting here. That's 100%. So, and I think that's important for the student to understand that if you come in and you're a 20 handicap and you're trying to limit variables, and this is something we'll talk about later, you might need to have some understanding of what wrist angles are doing in order to control some factors. But at some point, when I start applying force to this object, I have to do it right as well. So I'm limited. If I get to an 8, and I've taught you how to hit a big sling hook because you were a slicer when you came in,
well, I don't want to start an iron, let's say an 8-iron, outside the green into a bunker and draw it back in. Not only can I not control the height of the ball, can't control the spin of the ball, or I can't control that amount of curve.
Right. And you don't want to get your student hitting good, straight, pure shots that get them in trouble too.
That too.
You know, because then they're like, well, what can I do better than that?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's where, you know, we have to kind of look at ourselves on the curve and realize like our entry level of golf is wherever it is, and then how do I progress? And I think at some point you have to explore this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really important.
Force before motion.
100%.